Welcome to the Top 1% Book Club. Um, we do deep dives into the best self-improvement books. And today, we're going to be exploring Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Yeah. The Power of Now, one of those just incredible books about self-improvement.
So get ready, because we're going to be diving into, how living in the present moment can reduce stress,
Yeah.
enhance mindfulness, and transform your life, literally transform your life.
Well, and what I think is so fascinating about this book is it doesn't just tell you to live in the present, it actually gives you the tools
Right.
to do it.
That's so neat to me.
Like he really goes deep into the why behind our obsession with the past and the future,
Yes.
and then gives you strategies to kind of break free from that.
Yeah, and one of the core ideas, and I think this is so important to start with, is this idea that we are not our minds,
Right.
but we spend so much time lost in thought, reliving past events, worrying about what's to come.
Yeah.
It's almost like our minds have become our own worst enemies.
Exactly. And he calls this, identification with our thoughts, the egoic mind, right?
Yes.
He uses this powerful metaphor where he says, so you see and judge the present through the eyes of the past and get a totally distorted view of it.
Yes.
I mean, think about that. How often do you let past experiences color your perception of what's happening right now?
Literally all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
But if we're not our minds, then who are we?
That's the million-dollar question, right? That he really helps us answer. And so what he suggests is that beneath the constant chatter of the mind, right,
Right.
lies this deeper awareness, a state of pure presence that he calls being.
Being. Okay. But how do we access this being? It seems so elusive
Yeah.
when our minds are constantly pulling us in different directions.
Well, and that's where I think he offers like a really practical solution. And it's becoming intensely conscious of the present moment. He describes it as creating a gap of no mind. So it's like the space of pure awareness where you're not lost in thought. You're simply observing.
So it's about developing a kind of mindfulness practice.
Totally.
Noticing our breath or the sensations in our body, things like that.
Exactly. He says even the simplest acts, like listening to the sounds around you or
Yeah.
feeling the air on your skin, can bring you into the present moment.
It's so simple and yet so hard to do.
It is.
And he has that great line when asked, what time is it? He replies, now. What else is there?
Right.
It really drives home the point that the present is all we truly have.
Yeah. And it's such a simple but profound truth.
Right?
And yet we spend so much time
We do.
dwelling on the past, which is gone, or worrying about the future, which hasn't even happened yet.
Totally. It's like we're missing out on life itself by constantly trying to escape the present moment.
Yeah. And what's interesting is he doesn't just say that living in the now is like a nice idea, right?
Okay.
He connects it to the experience of pain,
Okay.
suffering.
Yeah, he says, this is a pretty bold statement
Yeah.
that humans are a dangerously insane and very sick species because of our tendency to deny the now.
It is a bold statement,
Yeah.
but when you consider how much mental and emotional anguish we create for ourselves by dwelling on the past,
Yeah.
worrying about the future, resisting what we can't control, it starts to kind of make sense.
It does. So what's the antidote to this insanity?
Surrender.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
It's about yielding to the flow of life rather than opposing it, right?
Okay.
Saying yes to life even when it's challenging.
I think a lot of people misunderstand surrender as giving up
Yeah.
or becoming passive.
Yeah.
But he makes it clear that it's actually a very active and conscious choice.
It is, absolutely. He explains that surrender is not about weakness.
Okay.
It's about accepting what is and then taking action from a place of clarity and alignment.
So it's like letting go of the struggle and aligning yourself with the natural flow of life.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a great distinction.
Okay, so instead of fighting against reality, we can learn to flow with it.
Yes.
But how do we actually do that? Where do we begin?
Well, he offers several practical steps. One is recognizing that the future is often just a replica of the past. We tend to project our past experiences onto the future, creating a lot of unnecessary fear and anxiety.
Okay, so instead of assuming the future will be a repeat of the past, we can choose to be open to new possibilities.
Exactly. Another key step is understanding that the quality of your consciousness now shapes the future. What you think, feel, and do in this moment is creating your future reality.
That's empowering,
It is.
but also a bit daunting.
right?
It puts a lot of responsibility on us for how our lives unfold.
It does, but it also reminds us that we have the power to change our lives by changing our relationship with the present moment.
I love that. So instead of feeling trapped by our past or anxious about the future, we can choose to be present and create a more fulfilling life.
That's the essence of his message. And to help you apply this to your own life, he challenges you to make a distinction between your life situation
Okay.
and your life.
That's the difference.
So your life situation is all the external circumstances of your life. Your job, relationships, possessions, health, etc. Your life, on the other hand, is your inner being, the consciousness that experiences all of this.
Okay. So often we get caught up in trying to change our life situation
Yes,
without realizing that true fulfillment comes from within.
exactly. And he emphasizes that by cultivating a state of inner peace and presence, we can experience a sense of joy and fulfillment regardless of our external circumstances.
I remember a quote that really resonated with me. It's about realizing that there are no problems, only situations. It completely shifts the perspective.
It does, and it leads us to another important point, the power of non-attachment.
Okay, what does he mean by non-attachment?
Well, he's not saying we should detach from the people or things we care about.
Okay.
He's talking about detaching from the outcome of our actions.
So it's about being fully present with the action itself without getting caught up in the desire for a specific result.
Yes. He uses this analogy of an archer. A skilled archer focuses all their attention on the act of shooting the arrow, not on whether it hits the target or not.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's about putting our full energy into the present moment without being attached to the fruits of our labor.
And paradoxically, when we let go of that attachment, we often achieve greater results. It's like the pressure is off and we can perform at our best.
So it's about trusting the process
Mm-hmm.
and focusing on the journey rather than the destination.
Exactly. And that trust and focus lead us to a place of greater peace and fulfillment.
Wow. This is such a great starting point.
Yeah.
We've already covered some really powerful ideas.
Yeah.
Separating our identity from our minds, recognizing the power of the present moment, embracing surrender, and cultivating non-attachment.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore in the power of now.
Well, then let's dive deeper. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of Tolle's more intriguing concepts, like portals into the unmanifested and the idea of dying before you die.
We'll also unpack his strategies for dealing with an intolerable present moment and the 3 options he offers for creating a shift. Stay tuned for more insightful nuggets from the power of now. Welcome back. You've been doing such a great job exploring, how to shift your focus to the present moment. Now let's delve into some of the more intriguing aspects of Tolle's teachings, starting with what he calls the state of presence.
Okay, this sounds mysterious and fascinating. What exactly does he mean by the state of presence?
Well, he talks about the second coming of Christ, not as like a literal event, but as a transformation of human consciousness. It's a shift from living in time, the past, and the future, to living in presence in the now.
So it's about a collective awakening of sorts, a move towards a more conscious way of being in the world.
Precisely. And Tolle suggests this shift begins within each individual. It's about transcending the egoic mind and connecting with that deeper awareness we were talking about earlier.
Okay, but how do we actually make that shift? What does it look like in practice?
He uses this beautiful example, listening to the sound of a mountain stream. He says that when we listen with our minds, we label it, we analyze it, we compare it to other sounds. But when we listen beyond words, we perceive the essence of the stream, its aliveness, its holiness.
It's like we're experiencing the stream directly, without the filter of our thoughts and judgment.
Exactly. And this applies not just to nature, but to everything in life. When we can drop the mental chatter and simply be present with what is, we experience a deeper level of reality.
This reminds me of another intriguing concept he introduces. Portals into the unmanifested. What are these portals, and how do we access them?
Well, Tolle suggests that there are moments when we can transcend our ordinary thinking and experience a deeper reality. He describes it as form is emptiness, emptiness is form. It sounds paradoxical, but it points to the interconnectedness of all things.
So it's like recognizing that even seemingly empty space is full of potential and energy.
Exactly. And one way to access these portals, according to Tolle, is by focusing on nothing.
Focusing on nothing, how do we do that?
He gives examples like focusing on the silence between sounds or the space around objects. It's about shifting our attention away from the tangible world and tuning into the subtle energy that underlies everything.
This is making me think of meditation practices where you focus on the space between your inhales and exhales. It's like finding stillness within the movement.
You're getting it. And to further illustrate this concept, Tolle quotes from the Gospel of Thomas. "Split a piece of wood. I am there. Lift up a stone, and you will find me there."
That's a powerful image. It suggests that the divine, or the essence of being, permeates everything, even the most ordinary objects.
Right, and we can access this deeper reality, this state of presence, not just through formal meditation, but also through everyday activities.
So doing the dishes or folding laundry can become a spiritual practice.
Absolutely. The key is to bring full attention to whatever you're doing. Feel the sensations. Notice the details. Engage all your senses.
This is really starting to click for me. It's not about adding more things to our to-do list, but about changing our approach to everything we already do.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important aspect of living in the now, relationships. How can we bring presence and awareness into our interactions with others?
I'm eager to hear Tolle's take on this, because relationships can be a source of so much joy and also so much pain.
He stresses the importance of true communication, which he describes as communion. It's about moving beyond superficial conversations and connecting with others on a deeper level.
So it's about listening beyond words,
Yeah.
feeling the other person's essence, being fully present with them.
Yes, and this requires us to relinquish judgment, to move beyond our ego's need to be right or to control the interaction.
This resonates with me. I know that when I'm judging someone, it creates a barrier between us.
Yeah.
But when I can let go of those judgments and simply listen with an open heart, there's a deeper connection.
Exactly. And Toll emphasizes that relinquishing judgment doesn't mean ignoring dysfunction. It's about being the knowing instead of being the reaction.
So instead of reacting defensively or trying to change the other person, we can simply observe what's happening without getting caught up in the drama.
Yes, it's about responding consciously rather than reacting unconsciously. And this applies to all our relationships, not just romantic ones.
So whether we're interacting with family, friends, coworkers, or even strangers, we can choose to be present, to listen deeply,
Yeah.
and to connect on a more authentic level.
That's the beauty of Tolle's teachings. They offer practical guidance for living a more fulfilling life, not just in isolation, but in connection with others.
This is giving me a lot to think about. It's like we have the power to transform not just our own lives, but also our relationships, by simply choosing to be more present.
You've hit the nail on the head. And speaking of transformation, Tolle also explores some challenging concepts, like the pain body and conscious death. These might sound a bit intimidating, but they offer profound insights into the nature of suffering and the path to liberation.
Okay, I'm ready to face those challenges. Let's dive into the pain body and conscious death in the next part of our deep dive. Welcome back to our deep dive into Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. We've already explored some pretty profound ideas, from the nature of the ego to the power of presence.
And we've touched on some of the practical strategies Tolle offers for accessing that state of presence. But as you mentioned earlier, there are also some challenging concepts to unpack, like the pain body and conscious death.
Right. These terms sound a bit intimidating, but I'm curious to understand what he means by them and how they relate to living a more fulfilling life.
Let's start with the pain body. Tolle describes it as an accumulation of past emotional pain that lodges in our minds and bodies. It's like a shadow self that carries all our unresolved hurts, traumas, and negative experiences.
So it's not just that we remember painful events from the past, but that those experiences actually create a kind of energetic residue that we carry with us.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that the pain body can lie dormant for long periods. But then certain triggers, like a stressful situation or even a casual remark, can activate it.
So it's like we're suddenly overtaken by a wave of old emotions,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't make sense in the current moment.
Precisely. And the pain body can manifest in many ways. Anger, sadness, fear, anxiety, even physical ailments. It's like we're being hijacked by the past.
That makes sense. It explains why sometimes I react to things in a way that feels completely out of proportion. It's
Yeah.
like it's not even me reacting, it's this pain body taking over.
That's a great way to put it. And Tolle argues that until we become conscious of the pain body and learn to detach from it, it will continue to control our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors.
Okay, that sounds a bit scary, but also empowering. If we can become aware of this pain body, does that mean we can free ourselves from its grip?
Yes, absolutely. Tolle emphasizes the importance of bringing presence and awareness to the pain body. When we feel those intense emotions arising, instead of getting swept away by them or suppressing them, we can observe them without judgment.
So it's like creating a space between our true selves and the emotional turbulence of the pain body.
Exactly. And as we become more present with those feelings, they begin to lose their grip on us. Tolle suggests that surrender plays a key role in this process.
But how can we surrender to pain? Isn't that like giving in to suffering?
It's not about liking the pain or pretending it's not there. It's
Mm.
about accepting that it's present, allowing it to be there without making it into a personal problem or identifying with it. Resistance is what keeps the pain body alive.
So it's about acknowledging the pain without letting it define us or control our actions.
Precisely. And as we surrender to those uncomfortable feelings, they often begin to transform. Tolle also highlights the importance of forgiveness in dissolving the pain body.
So we're not just talking about forgiving others, but also forgiving ourselves for past mistakes or perceived shortcomings.
Yes, absolutely. Holding on to past grievances, resentments, and self-blame only feeds the pain body. Forgiveness, on the other hand, allows us to release those negative emotions and create space for healing.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what about this concept of conscious death? It sounds a bit ominous. Is he talking about physically dying?
Not exactly. He's referring to the death of the ego, that false sense of self that we create through our identification with our thoughts and stories. It's about letting go of the old limited version of ourselves and embracing a deeper, more authentic way of being.
So it's like a symbolic death,
Yeah.
a shedding of the old self to make way for a new, more awakened self.
Yes, and Tolle suggests that this death of the ego is actually a liberation. It frees us from the suffering that comes with attachment to our thoughts, emotions, and external conditions.
It's a powerful idea. But how do we actually experience this conscious death?
Well, Tolle believes it can happen gradually through self-awareness and presence, but also through what he calls limit situations.
What are limit situations?
Those are moments of crisis, like a serious illness or a profound loss, when our old worldview crumbles, and we're forced to confront the impermanence of all things. In these moments, the ego's grip loosens, and we have an opportunity to experience a deeper reality.
So even in the face of suffering, there's the potential for awakening.
Exactly. But his message isn't about waiting for a crisis to happen. He emphasizes that we can choose to die before we die by consciously letting go of our egoic attachments and embracing the power of now.
That's a profound message. It's like we could practice dying to the old, limited version of ourselves each day by choosing presence over identification with our thoughts and emotions.
You got it. And as we do that, we open ourselves to a deeper level of peace, joy, and freedom.
This has been such a rich and insightful exploration of the power of now. We've covered so much ground, from the nature of the ego and the pain body to the transformative power of presence and conscious death. What stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway for our listeners?
For me, it's the reminder that we have a choice in each moment. We can choose to be consumed by our thoughts, trapped in the past, or anxious about the future, or we can choose to be present, to embrace the fullness of this moment, and to tap into the power of now.
Beautifully put. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage you to explore the concepts and practices from the power of now in your own life. Maybe start with one small change, like bringing more awareness to your breath or listening to the sounds around you with full attention. You might be surprised by the transformative power of these simple acts.
Remember, the present moment is all we truly have. Choose to make it a beautiful one.